Hey, hope you're having a great day. Very welcome back to the Holistic Health Podcast. And today I'm going to be taking a deep dive into everything about injuries and injury recovery. Because think back to the last time you had an injury. Hopefully, it wasn't too recently, but it's so demotivating and so frustrating when you get injured. And this is why this is a topic that I feel really passionately about because I've had so many injuries over the years, like you wouldn't even believe. I'll go over some of them, but it's actually crazy how many injuries I've had. Um, Not because of anything like really badly that I've done, but just from like different sports and stuff like that. But on the plus side, the big positive to it is that from all those injuries, it's given me a lot of knowledge because I've had to take a really deep dive into biomechanics, exercise science, different recovery modalities, tools, like so many different things. I've invested thousands in working with different physios, neuromuscular therapists. And one of the other reasons why I want to talk about injuries is because I specialize in working with women over 40. I've done so for like almost 9 years now. I've been self-employed, doing holistic health coaching and personal training basically since like March 2017. And over those years, what I've noticed is the impact that pain has had and injuries have had on many of my clients has been massive. Like lower back pain, neck pain, hip pain, shoulder pain, wrist pain, like pain everywhere. Like if the amount of clients that I've worked with now, like it's over 500. Like I've literally worked with someone who's had pain somewhere and an injury also somewhere. And I'm going to get into some client stories. Obviously, I'm not going to mention people's names for privacy reasons, but I'm going to talk about some of the people that I've worked with. And I'll get into it a little bit deeper. But like, there's one lady this year, for example, I started working with her in February. She was unfortunately in a skiing accident, and she had literally broken her wrist really badly, and she'd also torn ligaments in her knee. So her left wrist was completely broken, and it was also her knee on the same side that she'd torn the ligaments. And I'll go into it a little bit deeper later, but just to give you a long story short, the main thing that we were focusing on is what she could do. And that has been a huge like mindset focus this year ever since February. Like it's December now as I'm recording this. So I've been working with her over the previous 11 months essentially. And that little mindset shift of focusing on what you can do has been a game changer for me personally and for many women that I've worked with who either have pain or who have had either a minor or a severe injury. And having that type of mindset is the thing that's going to make a massive change in the long run. Because the thing with injuries is like there's always going to be something that comes up. Like that's just unfortunately how it is. Like, and it can happen in so many different ways. Like if you train a lot, you could have a little injury. You might strain a muscle here or there. If you work a lot, let's say even the standard amount of hours, 35, 40 hours a week or more, you're more than likely to have some type of neck pain, shoulder pain, lower back pain. And the reason why I know this is because I've worked with so many people who have these issues and I've helped them solve it. So the thing is, there's most likely always going to be either some type of injury or pain that you have to deal with. And the most empowering thing is to know how to be able to either fix that completely or how to manage it in a way that allows you to feel good and to bounce back quickly. So I'm going to go through loads of different things today. I wrote out a list, so I'm just going to get it open and then we'll go through a bunch of different things. So I would like to cover some of the injuries that I've gone through just to give you a little bit of background. I find it pretty funny, even just like thinking about the amount of them. So if I go back to when I was younger, a really big one, when I was playing football, I think it was like under 12s, I had like a 50-50 tackle with somebody else and I stuck my leg out and he basically like fell over my right leg because we were playing on this. It was like a football pitch that had a sandy base. So basically when we both reached out to get the ball, my right foot got stuck in the sand and then he fell over my right leg. I basically tore the cartilage in my right knee when I was like, I can't remember exactly, but it was when I was like 12 or 13. So I still get pain in my right knee to this day, and I'm 31. That was like 18, 19 years ago. So I've had to make some adjustments to the training that I do. So when I started doing strength training, I would get a lot of knee pain because I would do a lot of squats. You know, the typical thing, I'd have a bar on my back, I'd be doing high bar squats, low bar squats, you know, dumbbell squats, whatever, loads of different variations of squats. And what I realized over the years is like, this is actually making my knee pain worse and worse. Like I got to the point where I remember I was flying to Spain to meet my family, and I'd done like a really hard squat workout. I'd been pushing it a lot. I think I did like 130 kg high bar squat. That's just where the bar like sits across the top of your traps. But I just did like 130 kg for like 8 reps or something like that. And I was feeling good, other than my knee felt like it was literally about to explode. Like I was sitting on the plane and I could just feel like a balloon filling up this pressure. So I unfortunately have made loads of mistakes with my own training, and I realized like, wow, I can't keep squatting because the knee pain is just not worth it. And this is going to give me some type of osteoarthritis or some issue in the long run. So a simple adjustment that I made was I tried loads of different exercises, and long story short, I basically found that a Bulgarian split squat is the squat variation that I can do pain-free. And that's something that I can progress on. I've been able to go up to like plus 60 kg was the heaviest I ever got up to on it for like sets of 6 in the past. But I can do a Bulgarian split squat relatively pain-free, which is amazing because it trains these same muscle groups, trains quads, and it's really good glute exercise as well. And so there's a lot of like positive things I've been able to take from different injuries that I've had. And that's one practical example. So one thing I'd like you to think of is like, if you have a knee injury, for example, the most important thing to do is figure out what exercises can you do pain-free, and then try and progress those as much as you can. So the Bulgarian split squat is one that I really like, and it works well for a lot of the women that I work with, because, you know, getting really toned legs and building the booty is like a very common goal for many people. And so having strong quads and glutes is really good, not only for aesthetics and your physique, but just for overall strength. So the Bulgarian split squat is an amazing exercise for that. And there's also other variations like a seated knee extension. Like you might have used that machine in the gym before where you sit into it and you basically just like straighten your legs out and then bring them back in. That's called it's a knee extension or a quad extension. And so when you find different exercises like that you can do pain-free, you basically want to try and progress them as much as you can. So let's say I'll go back to that lady that I mentioned earlier who was in the skiing accident, right? She tore the ligaments quite badly in her knee. So what we had to do was literally rebuild her strength from the ground up. And this was a very gradual process over a few months. So when she was at that worst point just after the injury, obviously I didn't get her to do any squats or anything like that. That would have been way too much pressure on her knees and on the ligaments. So what I did was ran her through some different testing, and we figured out what she could do pain-free. So some of the movements she could do pain-free were that one I mentioned, a seated knee extension, literally just body weight, where she would sit on the edge of a chair. And by the way, I do everything, all of my coaching is via video call. So I'd be in my office here and she'd be at home, and I'd be walking her through a workout for 30 minutes via video call. So I'd be getting her to do some body weight knee extensions. She'd literally be sitting down, and at the time we literally just started off with sets of 5 and we gradually built up. And then after about a month, she got up to the point where she could do like sets of 15. And then up to like sets of 30. And she got to the point where she was doing like sets of 50 with body weight knee extensions, absolutely pain-free. So that was like step 1. And then the next step was to add in a little bit of resistance from there. And so I'd get her to put like a hip circle on, add a resistance band, and you can see where I'm going with this. But basically over the last 11 months, now she's back amazingly to doing full ass to grass squats, completely pain-free. And it's because she had a really good mindset and trusted me in the process of doing one thing at a time, where we gradually rebuilt the strength. And 11 months, of course, it does seem like a long time, but if you think of your life as a whole, like if you live until, let's say, hopefully 85, 11 months, let's just call it 1 year. It's a very small percentage of your total life. But because she followed the program that I laid out for her, that whole process now means she can do loads of things pain-free. And to be able to do a full ass to grass squat with no pain is absolutely amazing, considering her ligaments were really badly torn. So I think that's a really good example of how, you can have quite a severe injury that would make most people just quit strength training completely, and cause a lot of demotivation. But you can have something happen like that if you have the right plan and gradual progressions, starting off from a very basic level of what you can do, then you'd be really surprised of where you can get to. And so with this lady, for example, the next step for her is just building up her deep squats. So at the moment in workouts, I have her doing, she's doing like sets of like 8 to 10 reps, with really, really good form. And so once she gets up to doing like sets of 20 with her body weight, then we'll start to add a little bit of weight where she'll be holding like a 5 kg dumbbell and then go up to 10 kg and, gradually progressing it from there. So yeah, I think that's a really, good example to keep in mind. So especially for anyone who's had knee injuries before, there is hope there, and there's so many things you can do about it. I'm going to take a sip of coffee. So knee injuries are one thing. Lower back injuries are also very, very common. And I couldn't even tell you the amount of people that I've worked with who have come to me having really bad lower back pain. And then thankfully, after like 4 to 8 weeks, they start to notice some huge improvements, reductions in pain, and then they can start to have a better quality of life. But lower back pain is something I'm also very passionate about because when I was like, I think it was 2010, 2011, something like that. I can't remember exactly, but I was around like 15 or 16. I went and got a CT scan and an MRI, and I basically had a hairline fracture in my L4 vertebrae, and I had a lot of lower back pain. Like I was literally at the point, the only sport I was playing at the time was golf. I'd essentially turned into an old man, even though I was only like 15 or 16. But even swinging a golf club was causing severe pain. And I remember I walked like 9 holes, which would be, it was probably only about 3 or 4 kilometers of walking. But I got to the point where my back pain was so bad that I literally had to take Diphene that I brought with me. And Diphene's a very strong painkiller. And even at that young age, before I did my degree or had any experience in recovering injuries or strength training or anything, I knew like something was really bad. But yeah, then I went and got the scans and I had that hairline fracture. So that was actually one of the things that really motivated me to start strength training in the first place. I first actually started off with a Pilates class that I did for like 4 weeks. And that was just like very basic breathing and bracing to get more core engagement, some foundations for ab strength, lower back strength. And then I started strength training April 19th, 2012. And the reason why I remember that day specifically is because I remember I bought this like multicolored like little journal notebook, and I had basically started logging my workouts from the day I started. And I always have that like picture in my mind of like April 19th, 2012. So I've been strength training for like, how many years is that? Almost 14 years at this point, which sounds kind of crazy to be honest. But that pain that I had with the L4 fracture, like it really made me go down the rabbit hole of fixing my own issues. And then because of that, I came across amazing people like Dr. Stu McGill. If you don't know who Dr. Stu McGill is, he's like one of the leading authorities worldwide on overall spinal health care recovery. And he's also a massive fan of like strength training. And he has a lot of different exercises that he's made very popular. And so a few exercises that work really well for actually helping with lower back rehab are things like, they're called the McGill Big Three, but like the cat and camel, or some people call it the cat cow. the bird dog, or I call it Superman. And then there's a bunch of other ones like modified side plank positions and stuff like that. But the point being is that I ended up going down this rabbit hole of trying to figure out how to solve my own lower back pain. And then I ended up thankfully doing that, started getting much stronger, got rid of all my lower back pain, which was honestly amazing. Just not to have to take painkillers and be able to walk pain free at that young age was like unbelievable. So I was very grateful for that. And then as soon as I did my degree, of course, deeper and deeper into the rabbit hole. And so I've really seen like the impact it can have on your quality of life, because I've worked with many women as well as men who literally get to the point where, they're working 40, 50, maybe 60 hours per week with work. They're constantly in a seated position. Then they go from working loads at the desk to then driving back and forth. And they spend so much of their time sitting that they have this like chronic lower back pain, and it has such an impact on their quality of life. Like so many people have before have said to me, they literally have issues with like bending over to tie their shoes or to pick up their kids, or really like simple things that shouldn't be an issue that have become an issue because of this just like chronic buildup of pain and inflammation in their lower back gradually over, it didn't happen over a night. It was basically something that built up over months and years. And so there are loads of different exercises that you can do. Like I said, cat and camels, Supermans, doing like child's pose, stretch, just really gentle things, because that's really like the secret to what you want to do. You want to start off and figure out what you can do pain-free, and pain-free being the most important thing. Because on a side note, a lot of people, and I know it's become like a bit of a meme at this point, but a lot of people, when they think about the gym, they're like, oh, no pain, no gain. And like, I just find that funny now and like take it as a bit of a joke. But some people maybe actually take that to heart and they're like, oh yeah, I actually have to like be in pain to make progress. And it's honestly just not the case. Like if you've had some type of chronic pain or injury for a long time, or you're just getting into training, you want to be able to do things pain-free, because that's how your body is going to adapt in a positive way. And then sure, once you've built the foundation of your lower back strength or knee strength, and then you've got a really good foundation, and let's say you can do like sit-ups or different ab exercises without getting lower back pain, you only just feel it in your abs, then you can really start to push. Like I'm a big fan of really like getting people to really feel and see how far they can go with their strength. Like that's such an amazing feeling when you get to the point where you're like, holy crap, I'm like way stronger, way fitter than I ever thought I'd be. Like that's such an amazing feeling, but you have to do it in stages. So when you start off, you build the foundation, you get to the point where you got rid of a lot of this like chronic pain that you might have had, or little bits of pain and issues maybe, then you can really start to push yourself. But it's really important to do it the right way. And so that's actually like a really good test. Like if you, let's say, go to do a sit-up or a leg raise or a hollow body or whatever, a twist or any type of ab exercise, doesn't matter. And if you are getting lower back pain and it's not like burning sensation in like your abs or obliques, that's a sign that your lower back is the weak point. And so that's something that you need to work on. Because ideally, you want to be able to do, let's say, 10 sit-ups, 20 sit-ups, and it's just like this like intense burning in your abs. That's how you know that you're doing the exercise correctly, and that also your lower back is strong enough to give you that overall support. So that's a good thing you could be, taking into consideration in the future. The next time you do a workout, note down how you're feeling and where you can actually feel in terms of pain or burning. So like, let's say if we go back to the leg strength exercise from earlier, if you're doing like deep squats and you're not really feeling it in your quads or your thighs, you're not really feeling it in your glutes, but let's say you're really feeling it in your lower back, or you're feeling it right up through your patella, like the bony part up the front of your knee. If you're feeling it in one of those areas, there's some issue going on. It's either that that exercise biomechanically doesn't suit you, or you just have a weak point somewhere like in your lower back. But if you're not feeling that quad and glute exercise in those muscle groups and you have pain somewhere else, that's a sign that something needs to change. And that's something that, like, if you don't have a background in some type of exercise science or personal training, or you didn't do a degree in it, like, you just won't make that association, which is completely normal. Like, I don't know anything about architecture, just as a completely random example. But if somebody showed me blueprints for something, I'd be like, oh yeah, cool, that's amazing. But it could be like completely wrong. I literally would have no idea. So it's the same thing. Like, if you don't have a background in exercise science or personal training or something, it's kind of like very hard to know these things. And that's exactly why I feel really passionate about making content like this, because I can give you this insight to make sure that you can stay pain-free, you can get stronger, fitter, make loads of progress, feel good in your clothes, and you can do it in a way that's going to give you good longevity as well into the future. So yeah, that's really, really important. All right, so a few other injuries and issues that I've had. I find this is like a good way to bring up the topic, because so far we've gone through knee pain, recovery, lower back. Wrist injuries are also very common. I'll get to that. Neck, shoulders. We'll go through a few different things. I think I'll go to wrist next as well. So with that lady that I mentioned earlier, she had completely broken her wrist from the skiing accident at the start of the year. Like, completely wrapped up, was really, really bad. And so the goal overall since we started was to get back to the point where even just being able to put weight on her fingers and not have wrist pain would be a massive thing. And so it's been a very gradual process over the last 11 months. But with the wrist recovery, we literally would just start off with super basic stuff. Like, her right side was still fine. So of course I wanted her to keep building her upper body strength. So for the first like couple of months, for example, I'd be getting her to do like bicep curls, and she'd have a 3 kg weight in her right hand and then no weight in her left hand. So she'd literally just be doing curls up and down, and she could do, let's say at the time when we started off, she was doing like sets of 10. So she was getting some stimulation on that left side and just very slowly building up her injured wrist. And regaining some of that bicep, forearm, finger grip strength, all those things, but then also progressing her right side. Because there have been a good few studies done that show that even if you just train the opposite side that's not injured, you can have anywhere up to like 20% strength carryover, because just stimulating one side requires a little bit of stimulation on the other side. And so even doing weighted on one side and body weight on the other side is really good, because you're still maintaining a basic level of strength on one side, but then you're building strength on the other side, because you can always catch up on the other side as well. And that's basically what happened. Like, after about 3 months, she was able to get all of her casts and stuff off her wrist, and was able to start incorporating more weights. So eventually, like, she got back to the point where she was doing, let's say she had a 5 kg in one hand and then a 2 kg in the other hand, and she was doing sets of 10, and then would gradually get her to bring up her strength on the weaker side. And long story short, now she's at the point where both wrists are back up to the same strength. She's holding a 5 kg in both hands, and now she can do like sets of 10 with 5 kg on the bicep curls in each hand, and her strength is completely evened out after 11 months. And over the last 2 months, she's been able to start actually putting weight back on her hands. And there's a bunch of different wrist exercises you can do that I got through some different like climbers that I follow, as well as like Olympic gymnasts. So they're really simple exercises. It's called like a fingertip push-up. So if you're like kneeling on the floor, you would literally just like spread your fingers out as wide as possible. And then you want to like squeeze the floor with your fingertips. And so you're feeling like a little bit of pressure through each fingertip on the floor. And then you're just basically doing this. It doesn't look right from the seated position I'm in now, but you're basically just doing a little like push up where you're putting a little bit of pressure through your fingertips. But if you look up, I have tutorials on this as well, but if you go to YouTube and literally look up like Olympic gymnasts wrist strength or wrist conditioning, something like that, they're all like very common exercises in gymnastics. So there's like really basic ones like that. There are more difficult ones you can do as well, but those kind of basic exercises for wrist strength are really, really good. And I've even noticed this myself because another injury I got at the start of this year was I was training jiu-jitsu with one of my friends, and he went to like take me down, and I think I kind of like posted out, but I basically put my hand behind me and I turned my hand and I rotated it fully, but then like all of my body weight as I was like falling backwards, I basically put like a lot of pressure through one of the bones in my hand that kind of connects into my wrist. But I had really bad wrist pain for like a few months, and I couldn't even do push-ups. Before that, I could do 100 push-ups in a workout, like 10 sets of 10, no wrist pain, no issue at all. But then after that, I literally could put zero pressure on my wrist. And the only way that I was able to build that back up was doing those fingertip push-ups and doing the sequence of different wrist exercises that are really specific to flexion and extension of the wrist, and then also rotation as well. Because your wrist not only goes up and down or flexes and extends, but it also rotates like this. And the rotation was actually what was killing me. And interestingly enough, the rotation was something that also was a big issue for this client that I've been working with. But now, thankfully, that's like fully healed up, both for me and for her, which is great. So there are a few like really, really good exercises I'd recommend for wrist strength. Then moving on to some other injuries that I had. So neck like pain and tightness is super common, especially if you work a lot, you drive a lot. Like it's just something, we're not designed to sit for long periods. Like the human body is designed for movement. We're not designed to sit in an office all day long. Like if you look at human history, that's just something that's come along in the last like 50 to 60 years. Like pre 1920s, pre 1900s, for every time before that, everybody had to do some type of physical work, and we're more designed to be moving, essentially, not to be sitting. That's why, like I've heard the phrase loads, like sitting is the new smoking. That's exactly why we're designed to move. So moving is really important. And so something that happens with our necks is like if you're constantly sitting on your phone, on the laptop, driving, that's like an unnatural position for your neck to be in. So some simple things that work really well, both for me and for different clients I've worked with, are simple stretches, like literally stand up, grab the back of your chair, drop down, kind of like a child's pose, but from a standing position. Just doing like gentle neck stretches, like going up and down with your neck, moving side to side. But really the thing that makes the biggest difference is seeing where you can actually reduce the amount of time that you spend sitting. So some simple ways to do this. Like I'm very lucky. I work from home. I do like mostly video calls with clients. So instead of sitting for those, I'll actually just do them from standing. So have a think of like what you could change in your day-to-day life with work, especially. Like one lady I can think of recently, she like is the director of her company. She's been like director for 20 something years. So for years, like she's been sitting a lot and she's had a buildup of chronic pain. So some of the little changes that I've been getting her to make that she's noticing benefits from recently are she's trying to take as many meetings as she can standing instead of sitting. So she has a standing desk in work. She'll try to move about as much as she can during the day. So for example, just like taking her break between 1 to 2, she'll try and get out for a quick walk. If she's having a call with somebody, she'll try and take the call while she's walking instead of sitting. Simple things like that, just getting out of the chair and work kind of like every 45 to 60 minutes, even if it's just like standing up for like a minute or two. Really simple changes like that can make a big difference. Another lady that I worked with last year, she was doing so much work. Like, she's the CEO of her company, and she actually got an under desk treadmill because she wanted to like gradually lose weight and tone up a bit more. But we both noticed that her steps were super low because she just could hardly leave the house all day. She just like on back to back meetings the whole time. And as soon as she got the under desk treadmill, she literally got up to the point where she was doing like 12 to 15,000 steps every day. Like her steps like skyrocketed because she was just like using the treadmill so often. And she only had it on like a really low speed, but she had her desk set up in such a way that she was just like walking at a slow pace. And then she was saying to me, she was like, yeah, so I just like get on a call, and then people are wondering like, are you like walking or what are you doing? And she would just say outright like, yeah, I'm just getting a few steps in while we're having a chat. And like, this lady is literally like CEO of like a very big company. And like she said, everyone that she was on the calls with were very understanding. They didn't really mind because like she was just like moving, bobbling about a little bit. But I think most people are, used to that these days. They know that most people are trying to be in as good shape as they can, or to try and get some steps in when they can. And the under desk treadmill is something that's become very popular. So it's become like more socially acceptable, so it doesn't have to be like an issue. You can literally just tell somebody like, yeah, I'm literally getting some steps in while we're chatting, So making simple changes like that, I think can make a really big difference, especially to relieving like chronic neck pain and issues. But something that a lot of people don't do, a lot of people will do stretching and stuff like that, but very few people actually do like neck strength work. And that's something that really does make a big difference, because there's a lot of simple exercises you can do. And I think you'd be really surprised if you try these out today. They're really challenging if you've never done them before. So if you lie down flat on the ground and literally just like lift your head up, tuck your chin to your chest, and then slowly tilt your head back. Try to do like 5 reps where you like go backwards and forwards with your head. And you'd be surprised like how quickly you start to feel all of the muscles in your neck really working a lot. So this is a very simple way that you can get rid of neck pain, is just by strengthening up your neck. So let's say you start off with like sets of 5. You do the up and down one. Maybe you do the ear to your shoulder where you're going side to side. You can also do a rotation one where you have your head slightly elevated off the ground, and then you just like rotate left, rotate right. Those are 3 really good neck strength exercises you can do. And if you start off with sets of 5, let's say you find that quite difficult, gradually progress that each week. Like try and do it like twice per week. Let's say the first week you do just 1 set of 5 on each of those 3 exercises. So you do 15 reps total, very easy. Now going into week 2, maybe you do 2 sets of 5 on each exercise. So now you've gone from doing 15 reps per workout up to 30 reps. And then maybe week 3, you do 3 sets of 5. And maybe you just keep going up in sets of 5. Week 4, you do 4 sets of 5. You might start to plateau. Maybe week 5, you get up to 5 sets of 5, and then it starts getting quite difficult. But then you could do 5 sets of 5 a couple of times a week, maybe for another like 4 or 5 weeks, and then you break through that plateau. But I can guarantee you that if you build your neck strength gradually like that, and you can do it pain-free, most importantly, you will most likely notice that nearly all your neck pain will go, because a lot of pain that we get is actually mostly just a strength issue. It's our body sending us a signal being like, oh, the muscles that we have there around your neck, they're not actually strong enough to support me. So I'm going to give you some pain so that you don't hopefully move your neck too much or put me under too much pressure. Like, that's a really simple way to understand pain. It's your brain sending a signal for self-preservation to be like, oh shit, like don't move me, because if you do, the muscles that we have there currently, they're not strong enough to support me. And if you move too quickly, then it's not going to be good. So that's a lot of things, like with the way our bodies and brains are designed, like survival is our key thing. Our brain, that's how it's designed. We want to try and survive, So if our brain interprets that something is dangerous, it's probably going to send us a pain signal to not do it, as a warning, to be like, don't do it, please, like just don't do it. And so that's something that when you get stronger, a lot of those pain signals start to go. It was the same thing that I seen with my lower back. As soon as I started to do all of those breathing and bracing exercises from Pilates, then progressed my deadlift. I literally started off at like 20 kg, gradually progressed it up, started lifting, weights heavier and heavier. When I got up to the point where I could do, let's say, a 60 kg deadlift, like all my lower back pain had nearly gone. And then as I got stronger over the years, like I'd just be able to maintain. And that's what most women that I've worked with have noticed as well. And that reminds me, a huge win from the start of this year. This lady that I worked with, who's in her late 60s, she had gone and got a DEXA scan, and she had so this year she got a DEXA scan, but then 2 years previous she had got a DEXA scan. So 2 years previous, before we started working together, on her DEXA scan, it came up that she had osteopenia between it was her L3 and L4 in her lower back. And so osteopenia for women is actually a very common thing, both osteopenia and osteoporosis. It's a bone condition that comes, especially, the first 5 years after menopause is when it can really accelerate, because as soon as most women enter full menopause, or some people call it postmenopause, estrogen levels drop, and estrogen is one of the most important hormones that support bone health. So a lot of women, one of the most common health issues for women who are postmenopausal, and that can be any age, it can be 50, 55, 60, it's different for everyone, but most women who are postmenopausal are more prone to have an osteoporosis or osteopenia. And one of the best ways that you can reduce your chances of having that is through strength training. And this is what happened with this lady that I worked with. So she got this readback from her DEXA scan that she had osteopenia in L3, L4. And when we started working together, she had some lower back pain, and she really struggled with deadlifts as well. Like she had 3 kg dumbbells, and even doing like sets of 5, sets of 6 when we started, like she would get quite a lot of, not pain, but just she didn't have any real strength in her lower back. So that was something that we progressed. And long story short, after about a year of consistent training, she got to the point where she was able to do 10 kg dumbbells for like sets of 20 on deadlifts. Like her strength like massively increased. And she'd even said to me loads of times that, like, when we started working together, I couldn't even imagine picking up a 5 kg dumbbell, never mind a 10 kg dumbbell. So her whole like perception of how strong she thought she could get, like she blew through that like massively. And the great thing was, when she went back and got her DEXA scan then and redid it, she had actually reversed osteopenia in her L3, L4. And when she sent me the photo of her DEXA scan results, could see it said on a normal range. And it's kind of unbelievable, because a lot of women have this idea that as soon as they get osteopenia or osteoporosis, that they can't do anything about it. And it's such an important thing, because I've seen firsthand how osteoporosis especially has a massive impact on quality of life. And literally, my granny's sister has had severe osteoporosis for a long time. And I can't even tell you the amount of times that she's fallen and she's broke so many bones. Like it's really hard to see, because she used to be like super active. And, for the past number of years, like she's basically had to either be in a wheelchair or use crutches, and her quality of life has like massively diminished. And that's unfortunately a story that's way too common for many women, especially as they kind of go more into their 60s, 70s, and especially 80s, is any women who weren't doing any strength training, unfortunately, are very likely to get some type of osteopenia or maybe osteoporosis. And that's like a real big driving force behind everything that I do. Like, I'm so passionate about strength training and fitness and longevity because I've seen how it's impacted people. And all the women that I work with, I want them to get to the point where they're in their 70s, they're in their 80s, and they still feel amazing. They're still able to get out for walks, hikes, pick up their kids or their grandkids maybe at that time, have the ability to live life on their terms and not to have this like huge impact from something like osteoporosis. Like, that's a huge why for me. And that's like super important for me. And that can serve for a lot of people. That can become a massive motivation for many people of being like, yeah, if I really prioritize my strength training now, and it doesn't even have to be much. That's the thing. Like, if you literally do a strength workout for 30 minutes, 3 times per week, and you do that consistently, you'll make so much progress with that. That's what the lady that I mentioned who got the DEXA scan, that's how she reversed osteopenia. Like, she wasn't training every single day. She was literally doing 30-minute workout 3 times a week, super consistent with it. And I'd walk her through. She was coming to my classes as well as we do a one-to-one every week. So I was giving her a lot of support with that. And I walked her through the whole process. And having the ability to empower yourself with that, get stronger, get fitter, and not have an issue like that in future is just like amazing. I'm going to take a sip of coffee and then I'll move on to, there's a Netflix documentary I want to tell you about. So I seen this Netflix documentary about a year or so ago, but it's called The Blue Zones. And I thought it was really interesting because it was all about longevity. And I think many of us have this idea of like, oh, as we get older, things are just going to get worse. And it'll get to a point where I'm not going to be able to do anything for myself anymore. And the cool thing in The Blue Zones was when the guy who was recording it went to Singapore, there's this bunch of, it's more common over there, but this bunch of people in the park, and they're literally all in their 80s. Some of them were in their 90s. And they're literally all doing like push-ups, pull-ups, gymnastics on the bars, L-sits, lots of different like calisthenics and gymnastics movements. And they completely like broke through the idea of just because you get to a certain age means that you can't do things. Like, that's a limiting belief for sure. Like, my granddad is unbelievable. He's like, I find him so inspiring. He's always like prioritized some type of gymnastics, running, strength training, pretty much his whole life. And he nearly died a couple of times. He had a stroke a few years ago. And then he had a second stroke in like, I think it was like 2020, something like that. But he essentially made a full recovery. And he's like 85 now. And I seen him a couple of months ago. And I was asking him, like, is he still doing some training and stuff like that? Because you'd imagine, like, okay, after you've had 2 strokes and you've nearly died a couple of times, maybe that things are going to start to drop a bit. But he's like, no, I did like 21 push-ups a few days ago. And he's like, here, have a look. And he went over and he like put his hands on the chair and then was doing this like incline push-up. And I was like, okay, I believe you. And he was walking me through like his whole workout that he was doing. He's like, yeah, so I'm doing like sets of 10 on push-ups. And then I have the dumbbells. I'm doing like shoulder presses with the 5 kg dumbbells. And then I'll lie down on the ground and I'll do like sets of 10 on the leg raises. And I'm like, you're literally like able to do more than most people that I even work with who are in like their 30s and 40s, never mind being like 85. So there's so much to be said for the positive impact that strength training can have on your longevity. Like, it's just, you can't even argue with it, honestly. And I've read loads of books over the years, but there is one lady, she's an endocrinologist, Dr. Geraldine Pryor, and she runs I'm not going to be able to remember the full thing, but it's like the Center for Menstrual Cycle and Menopause Health or something kind of like that. but she specializes in endocrinology as well as like menstrual cycle and menopausal health. And I've read like a few books that she's like co-authored or she's been featured in. And one of the main things that she recommends is literally strength training. So you know that if endocrinologists, like people who specialize in overall hormonal health, and especially then also specialize in things like menopause, if they're recommending strength training, then you know that it's legit. And there's so much science behind it, like it honestly can't even be argued with anymore. So yeah, that's something that if you're not currently doing strength training, like I know most people, they want to lose weight, they want to feel good in their clothes, they want to just feel good overall. But the way that you're going to do that is true strength training. And the good thing is, like I've hopefully made very clear in this whole podcast, is it doesn't have to mean like super heavy weights. It could literally just mean starting off doing super basic body weight exercises like the cat and camel, like a Superman, like a side plank, glute bridges, whatever you can do pain-free for the moment, because you're literally just starting off your journey. Everyone starts off at their baseline point. And once you're consistent, you're going to be able to make like so much progress over the years. And a quote that I love is like, many people underestimate or many people overestimate what they can do in 1 year, but they underestimate what they can do in 10 years. So I kind of messed that up. I'll go again. So many people overestimate what they can do in 1 year, but underestimate what they can do in 10 years. And it's so true, because it's like getting stronger, fitter, better physique, feeling good in your clothes, building confidence, whatever it is, like it has a compounding effect. So it's like, I used this analogy earlier with the lady that I'm working with currently. Like imagine with your pension, if you started saving in your pension, like you wouldn't try to take your pension out in like 3 months. Like nobody is going to do that. It doesn't make any sense, because you need to give your pension time to grow. And if you invest even a small amount in your pension every month for like 35 years, let's say between 30 to 65, by the time you get to 65, your pension has compounded so much, it's gained so much interest, that even if you only put small amounts in, you'll have quite a chunk of change there for your retirement. And it's the exact same thing with your fitness, your energy, your strength, your confidence, your longevity. Even if you're just consistent with 2 30-minute workouts per week, or ideally 3 30-minute workouts per week, when you break it down, that's literally just like 1% of your entire week. We all have 168 hours in a week. So if you take 1% of your week and you do that every week, the compounding effect of that by the time you get to your 60s, 70s, 80s means that you're way less likely to have osteoporosis. You're way more likely to have better quality of life. You're going to be able to pick up your grandkids without having lower back pain. You're going to be able to be more mobile, still do things for yourself. Simple things like going on holidays. Like I have close relatives who, it's honestly makes me feel really sad that they can't even go on holidays anymore because of the health issues that they have. And a lot of them, and I know shit happens, like certain health issues just happen and you can't avoid them. But a lot of the issues that they have would have been avoidable to a high percentage or high extent if they had really focused on different things. Like they didn't have the knowledge back then, and I completely understand that. But now we have no issues with knowledge right now. Everybody has access to the same amount of knowledge in terms of overall longevity, how to optimize things with nutrition, sleep. Like we all have the information, because all you have to do is go on Google, type it in, or you go to ChatGPT and you'll get a list of like, here's the 15 things you should do to avoid long-term issues with your health or whatever, But anyway, I digress. That's a bit of a rant. I do want to move on to some practical tips as well. So there's a few things I want to go through that are really going to help with optimizing recovery from injuries. And I'll take another sip of coffee and then I'll walk you through those. So a supplement that I highly recommend is, you can get it on iHerb. It's only like €20, depending on the size of the box that you get. But it's a combination of glucosamine, chondroitin, and MSM. And they're three of the most studied supplements to help with joint support. And the thing that I've noticed a lot with those is where I tore that cartilage in my knee years ago. I've been supplementing with that. I've been taking 3 every day for the past like 6 months. And I noticed that when I'm supplementing with it continuously on a daily basis, I'll have a noticeable drop in knee pain. Like if I don't supplement with it, doing simple things like a lunge or kneeling down on the floor, I'll get like a little bit of knee pain from where the cartilage was torn. But when I supplement with 3 per day, my knee pain has literally dropped by like 80%. I've honestly been kind of shocked by it, but in a good way, of course. So I'd highly recommend, like, if you have any joint injuries in the past, knee, shoulder, elbow, any joint at all, would highly recommend supplementing with that. And it's also a really good thing for longevity, because if your joint health is better now, that means your joints also have just more ability to bounce back from injuries, and also lower chance of getting something like osteoporosis or osteopenia. So highly recommend those 3. There'll be a link down below in the description. You can get it on iHerb, but yeah, I'll put a link in the description where you'll be able to get it. You can try it out. But if you want to read more details on it, examine.com is a really good resource. Literally just type in examine.com and go into it, and then just type in like glucosamine, and examine.com is an objective site where it'll share all of the evidence that's been gathered on different supplements. So it's a really good place that you can make like an informed decision. So that's one of the best supplements on the market for sure. Then sleep is like honestly the best thing you can do for recovery, because the only time that recovery happens is when you're in a deep sleep. So if you have anything that's tracking your sleep, like a Whoop, what else? Fitbit, Apple Watch, whatever it is, you want to have a look at your sleep data and see how much deep sleep you're getting every night. So 90 minutes of deep sleep per night or more is like the ideal target. So you want to try and do what you can to get your 90 minutes of deep sleep per night. What that would usually look like is around 7.5 hours of full sleep, but you'll get more deep sleep when you go to bed earlier. So if you go to bed if you get to sleep by, let's say 10:30, 11, and then you get like 7.5 to 8 hours sleep straight through without waking up, that's usually what will allow you to get that amount of deep sleep. So if you can really optimize your sleep, you're going to optimize your recovery from injuries, and it's just going to speed the whole process up. Simple thing as well, something that really impacts sleep quality is blue light exposure. So blue light from laptops, TVs, especially from your phone. So you can literally on your phone just turn on like night shift mode or eye comfort shield on Android, and the screen will go like an orangey color. So that's going to reduce the blue light exposure. And basically, the less blue light you get in your eyes in the evening time, it means that your brain can switch off easier, because blue light basically keeps your brain alert and awake. Whereas if you have more like orange light, let's say you're sitting in front of a fire, or you have like an orange light, like the shield on your phone. Some people even wear like orange tinted glasses or red tinted glasses. They might be like too much of a big step for many people, because they do look a bit funky. But if you're working late and you don't mind wearing glasses like that, they do the same thing. But you basically want that orange color to help your brain switch off, and then that's going to give you better quality of sleep. It's blue light basically affects like your melatonin production at nighttime. Melatonin is like your sleep hormone. So we don't want to impact that too much from external blue light, essentially. But yeah, if you have something that's tracking your deep sleep, have a look and see. If you're getting less than an hour and a half of deep sleep per night, try and get to bed earlier so you can basically get more of it. That's as simple as I can make it. And yeah, it'd be good I think I'll finish off by just going back over some mindset tips. I kind of touched on them briefly, but the biggest thing mindset wise when you have an injury is just to focus on what you can do. So for example, I had a lady that I started working with. We'd worked a good bit together back in like 21, 22, 23. But she took a break for a couple of years and she was working with somebody else. And then she came back to work with me about 4 or 5 months ago. And things were going great, back making good progress after about a month. And then unfortunately, she had an accident where she like fell, just really unlucky. There was like a hole in the ground off the side of the path that wasn't marked by the council or something really unfortunate. But basically, she fell and she like tore, she like dislocated her shoulder, and she also tore, I think it was maybe something in a rotator cuff, but it was a serious like shoulder injury that she was fully back in like a cast for like 8 weeks. And she literally said to me, like, I think she was like, if we hadn't been back working together doing some training and you give me some support, like I honestly would have just like given up, because I had really like said to her so many times, like the most important thing you can do right now is not give up on yourself and really focus on what you can do. So yes, her shoulder was badly injured. She was in a lot of pain, but her other arm, absolutely fine. Both legs, absolutely fine. Neck, fine. Abs, lower back, fine. Everything else was like absolutely fine. It was just that shoulder was quite badly injured, and she had like a lengthy process of recovery to go through. But now it's about like 10 weeks after she's out of the cast, and she's back to being able to build a little bit of strength. So in the meantime, I had just modified her workouts. So we were doing things like calf raises, supported squats, like on a chair. She was still doing like bicep curls, shoulder presses, kickbacks, loads of dumbbell exercises on her good arm. She was still doing ab work from a seated position. So I've made lots of adaptations to her workouts. So she's been doing lots of training the last while, and that's been having the added effect of really helping with her mood, her energy, her mental health. Because that's something that a lot of people forget is like, if you do get injured and you decide not to like continue with training or not to like start a training program, like you're not just missing out on getting fitter and stronger. It's also the massive impact that has on your mental health, on your mood, lower energy. And so that's why I'm like always pushing people to be like, okay, yes, I understand you've got an injury, but let's focus on the recovery and rehab for that area. Let's do that as best we can. And then everywhere else that's okay, let's keep training there and keep progressing it. Because I've been there so many times, like between when I, had the hairline fracture in my lower back. A few weeks ago, I compressed the ulnar nerve that runs up here. I did like 150 push-ups in a workout. When I tore the ligaments in my ankle when I was in secondary school. Oh my God, I've got such a long list. I didn't even mention this earlier. When I broke what's it called? Radius, I think it is. When I broke, it was one of the bones anyway, my forearm. Before I finished secondary school, I broke a couple of ribs, fractured 2 ribs when I was playing hurling when I was younger, jumped up for a ball. Guy came in with a hurl, slapped me full force there. I could hardly struggle to breathe for like 3 weeks. When I tore the cartilage in my knee, like the list goes on. But anyway, the point being is like, when I've had those injuries, I know how much of a dark place that's put me in. And it really has such a big impact on your mood. It made me feel like depressed so many different times, drops your energy because you're not moving as much as you normally do. So regardless of even worrying about extra fitness or strength, when you're training, when you've got an injury, you're going to have that mood boost and overall increase in your mental health, which is like nearly more important than anything, right? So the great thing is with this lady who dislocated her shoulder and damaged her rotator cuff, she's maintained loads of strength and she's been able to build strength in many areas. And now she's out of the cast. She's able to continue working on slowly building back up her mobility between her wrist, her elbow, and it's going to be a very slow process of just bringing some mobility and ability to move her shoulder overall pain-free, but just gradually working her through bringing her through like the different steps of the recovery process. And, the great thing is in a couple of months' time, she's going to be back to being back to full strength, and then she'll be able to continue to progress from there, So yeah, I'd love to know if you're listening to this, or if you're watching on YouTube, drop a comment down below. Let me know like what's the worst injury you've ever had, and like how have you bounced back from that? Like, did you work with a physio? Did you not do anything? Did you kind of just let it heal by itself? But definitely write down like what's the worst injury that you've ever had. I'm curious to find out. All right, that is pretty much it for today. It's been a solid hour solo podcast. Hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Holistic Health Podcast. Went over so many different things about injuries, recovering from injuries, exercise examples that you can use to recover from different injury examples that I gave. Hopefully some of the clients' examples and success stories I shared are maybe inspiring in some way and show you how even if you do have something serious, you can still keep working on things and you can bounce back. And we also talked about longevity and how important that is. And yeah, hope you found it helpful. I'm going to start doing more of these solo podcasts as well, just because I realize there's quite a gap between different podcasts I've done in the past, because I unfortunately, I'm being super honest, I just like procrastinated because I was like, I wasn't able to find a guest to come on, or, maybe Finn wasn't available at the time and I had to keep pushing things out. So I'm not going to procrastinate on things anymore. I want to like share. I have so many like thoughts and ideas and different success stories from clients that I think will be inspiring for a lot of people. And I want to share these more regularly. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be doing the live stream first on YouTube. And then I'm also going to be taking the audio and I'm going to be putting that as a podcast. And then the podcast will be available on Spotify. It's even available on Audible as well. Samsung Music, on a bunch of different podcast platforms. And yeah, if there's a particular topic you'd like me to do a deep dive into, just let me know. The link, like I said earlier, is down below for where you can get the glucosamine chondroitin MSM supplement. And then one last thing before I let you go, I am really excited to announce that I am launching a community group, and basically I'm going to be hosting everything there. So if you want to get fitter, stronger, tone up, lose some weight, get more flexible, you want to eat healthier, sleep better, you just want to improve your confidence or feel the best you've ever felt, I'll be running all my programs through School. And that's a really nice community platform where you'll have access to everything. Plus you'll be able to get access to one-to-one sessions with me. I run 5 classes every week. Where I do like stretching and meditation, core workout, full body workout, but all the details for that are in the link below. You'll see I'll have the link for school.com/coach-Elan. The link is in the description. If you go through to click that link, it'll bring you over to my about page on School, and you'll be able to watch. I recorded like a 5-minute video where I give you an insight into exactly how it works, what's included, and the different like tiered options in terms of pricing and stuff like that. And you'll be able to see exactly, how the women that I'm working with currently are getting the results that they're getting. And yeah, so check that out. Let me know what you think. And yeah, hope you have a great rest of the day.